Do you have advice for young people in high school and college? Maybe if they're interested in AI or interested in having a big impact on the world, what they should do to have a career they can be proud of or to have a life they can be proud of.
I love giving talks to the next generation. What I say to them is actually two things. I think the most important things to learn about and to find out about when you're young is what are your true passions. Is first of all, there's two things. So one is find your true passions, and I think you can do that by the way to do that is to explore as many things as possible when you're young and you have the time and you can take those risks. I would also encourage people to look at finding the connections between things in a unique way. I think that's a really great way to find a passion. Second thing I would say advise is know yourself. So spend a lot of time understanding how you work best. Like, what are the optimal times to work? What are the optimal ways that you study? How do you deal with pressure? Sort of test yourself in various scenarios and try and improve your weaknesses, but also find out what your unique skills and strengths are, and then hone those. So then that's what will be your super value in the world later on. And if you can then combine those two things and find passions that you're genuinely excited about that intersect with what your unique strong skills are, then you're onto something incredible, and I think you can make a huge difference in the world.
So let me ask about know yourself. This is fun. Quick questions about day in the life, the perfect day, the perfect productive day in the life of Demis Hassabis.
Yeah.
Maybe these days there's a lot involved.
Yes.
So maybe a slightly younger Demis Hassabis,
Yeah.
when you could focus on a single project, maybe. How early do you wake up? Are you a night owl? Do you wake up early in the morning? What are some interesting habits? How many dozens of cups of coffees do you drink a day? What's the computer that you use? What's the setup? How many screens? What kind of keyboard? Are we talking Emacs Vim, or are we talking something more modern? So it's a bunch of those questions. So maybe day in the life.
Yes.
What's the perfect day involved?
Well, these days it's quite different from, say, 10, 20 years ago. Back 10, 20 years ago, it would have been, a whole day of research, individual research or programming, doing some experiment, neuroscience, computer science experiment, reading lots of research papers, and then perhaps at night time, reading science fiction books or playing some games.
But
right?
lots of focus, so like deep focused work on whether it's programming or reading research papers.
Yes. So that would be lots of deep, focus work. These days, for the last sort of, I guess, 5 to 10 years, I've actually got quite a structure that works very well for me now, which is that I'm a complete night owl, always have been. So I optimize for that. So, I'll basically do a normal day's work, get into work about 11 o'clock and sort of do work to about 7 in the office. And I will arrange back-to-back meetings for the entire time of that, and with as many people as possible. So that's my collaboration management part of the day. Then I go home, spend time with the family and friends, have dinner, relax a little bit, and then I start a second day of work. I call it my second day of work around 10 p.m., 11 p.m. And that's the time till about the small hours of the morning, 4 or 5 in the morning, where I will do my thinking and reading of research, writing research papers. Sadly, I don't have time to code anymore, but it's not efficient to do that these days, given the amount of time I have. But that's when I do, maybe do the long kind of stretches of thinking and planning, and then probably, using email or other things, I would fire off a lot of things to my team to deal with the next morning. Like, actually thinking about this overnight, we should go for this project or arrange this meeting the next day.
When you're thinking through a problem, are you talking about a sheet of paper with a pen? Is there some structured process?
I still like pencil and paper best for working out things, but these days it's just so efficient to read research papers just on the screen. I still often print them out. Actually, I still prefer to mark out things, and I find it goes into the brain better and sticks in the brain better when you're still using physical pen and pencil and paper.
So you take notes with the.
I have lots of notes, electronic ones, and also whole stacks of notebooks that I use at home. Yeah.
On some of these most challenging next steps, for example, stuff none of us know about that you're working on, you're thinking there's some deep thinking required there, right? Like what is the right problem? What is the right approach? Because you're going to have to invest a huge amount of time for the whole team. They're going to have to pursue this thing. What's the right way to do it? Is RL going to work here or not?
Yes.
What's the right thing to try? What's the right benchmark to use?
Yeah.
Do we need to construct a benchmark from scratch? All those kinds of things.
Yes. So I think of all those kind of things in the nighttime phase, but also much more, I find I've always found the quiet hours of the morning, when everyone's asleep, it's super quiet outside. I love that time. It's the golden hours, like between like 1 and 3 in the morning.
Yeah.
Put some music on, some inspiring music on, and then think these deep thoughts. So that's when I would read, my philosophy books, and Spinoza is my, recent favorite, Kant, all these things. And I, read about a great scientists of history, how they did things, how they thought things. So that's when you do all your that's when I do all my creative thinking. And it's good. I think people recommend, you do your sort of creative thinking in one block. And the way I organize the day, that way I don't get interrupted, because obviously no one else is up at those times. So I can go, as I can sort of get super deep and super into flow. The other nice thing about doing it nighttime wise is, if I'm really onto something, or I've got really deep into something, I can choose to extend it, and I'll go into 6 in the morning, whatever, and then I'll just pay for it the next day.
Yeah.
Because I'll be a bit tired and I won't be my best, but that's fine. I can decide, looking at my schedule the next day, and given where I'm at with this particular thought or creative idea, that I'm going to pay that cost the next day. So I think that's more flexible than morning people who do that. They get up at 4 in the morning. They can also do those golden hours then, but then their start of their scheduled day starts at breakfast, 8 a.m., whatever, they have their first meeting. And then it's hard. You have to reschedule a day if you're in flow.
Yeah, that could be a
I don't have
truly
to do that.
special thread of thoughts that you're too passionate about. This is where some of the greatest ideas could potentially come, is when you just lose yourself late into the night. And for the meetings, I mean, you're loading in really hard problems in a very short amount of time. So you have to do some kind of first principles thinking here. It's like, what's the problem? What's the state of things? What's the right next step?
Yes. You have to get really good at context switching, which is one of the hardest things, because especially as we do so many things, if you include all the scientific things we do, scientific fields we're working in, these are entire complex fields in themselves, and you have to sort of keep up abreast of that. But I enjoy it. I've always been a sort of generalist in a way, and that's actually what happened with my games career after chess. I one of the reasons I stopped playing chess was because I got into computers, but also I started realizing there were many other great games out there to play too. So I've always been that way inclined, multidisciplinary, and there's too many interesting things in the world to spend all your time just on one thing.